has acquired an additional wash plant. He desired to manage 2 crews and 2 factories. He offered us an option. We may collaborate with him. Chris Doumitt departing Gold Rush is a topic of conversation, and everyone believes they have the answer. Chris ultimately crumbled when Parker Schnabel set an unattainable aim. That's the cover story, though. A shocking revelation that the network would never broadcast is the true cause. In the Golden Ring, everything needs to be cleaned. I am unable to accomplish it. I simply am unable to. If you can't keep it clean, why have a third plan? Chris was unable to stay because of a deep-rooted conflict in values and a significant financial dispute that transpired behind closed doors. Burnout wasn't the only issue here. The fallout was dramatic. It was an act of rebellion for the quiet, dependable foreman to leave after being forced into a corner. Parker's impractical request. Even the strongest people can be broken by the Klondike. Season 15 was ideal for Chris Doumitt, a man who had established himself as the epitome of dependability on Gold Rush. This was no ordinary season, and it was an outright attack on reality, motivated by Parker Schnabel's boldest ambition to date. What a week. With that small plant, Brendan has been doing incredibly well. We get 487 ounces this week. Good. Gold mining was not Parker's only goal. His desire to mine was so great that it sounded like a misprint. 10,000 O. That's about $20 million worth of pure gold, or more than 600 pounds. You can't just work hard to reach that big of a number. You must take on a difficult task, and Chris Doumitt was struck hard by the weight of that impossibility. When you think about it, it's humorous. The entire business depends on the small, dazzling specks that are collected at the very end, even in a world full of enormous machinery and earth-moving operations. The gold room, Chris's dominion, was the last phase. Cleaning up after 1 or even 2 wash plants is typically a difficult, painstaking task. There, a mistake could cost hundreds of thousands, or even thousands of dollars. Parker, meanwhile, wasn't operating 1 or 2 plants this season. He made the decision to simultaneously operate 3 wash facilities. Big Red, the dependable workhorse, was there. There was the beast known as Rock Monster. The enormous primary plant, Sluifer, came next. One man was holding 3 streams of goldry concentrates. The burden changed from challenging to downright cruel. We have never attempted to operate 3 plants simultaneously before. We really need to be able to maintain 3 running in order for the season to be successful. Imagine your body hurting after a 12-hour workday, only to discover that you have to empty the cell boxes from 3 enormous machines. It goes beyond simply washing away some grime. Ensuring that not a single speck of gold is lost is a laborious task. This constant grind was more than just a job for Chris, who is no longer a young guy. It was a painful experience. He was the one who simply completed the task at hand without ever complaining. However, you could see the fractures starting to appear this season. He was drowning. For the first time in his lengthy employment with Parker, he had to speak up since the pressure was so great. Either that or it would collapse. Something had to give. It was impossible to get someone off a rock truck or dozer to assist in the gold room, because the staff was so overworked. For the 3 ravenous wash plants to be fed, each individual was necessary. This put Chris in a difficult situation. At last, he mentioned Tatiana Costa. Despite having minimal expertise in the delicate art of gold recovery, she was one of the team's top machine operators. The action was desperate. Tatiana. She might be one of our best operators. Yes, if Tatiana leaves the field, Tyson and Mitch won't be pleased. It was a big ask to suggest removing a top operator from the field, one that would not sit well with Parker's other foremen, Tyson and Mitch. The alternative, however, was to see Chris permanently leave. Despite his unwavering determination, Parker realized he couldn't lose Chris. The choice was made. Chris would finally receive assistance, and Tatiana would receive training. But you have to ask yourself, was it too little, too late already? The damage was already done. It was an obvious message. Parker's desire for 10,000 ounces took precedence over his most devoted man's welfare. More than a child, You must comprehend Chris Doumitt's personality in order to fully comprehend why his leaving is such a huge deal. He wasn't only another crew member. He was the key component that made Parker so successful. In the Gold, everything needs to be cleaned. I am unable to accomplish it. I simply am unable to. If you can't keep it clean, why have a third plan? The weird part comes next. To begin with, Chris Doumitt wasn't even a gold miner. He entered this planet virtually by chance. In the early seasons, he was employed as a carpenter to construct huts for Todd Hoffman's original team. He was merely a man with a saw and a hammer. However, he quickly found himself knee-deep in the mud due to the chaos of gold digging when one incident led to another. He had a talent for it, it turned out. An actual one. He finally switched to Parker's team in Season 4, and that's when everything seemed to fall into place. The young, ferocious prodigy with the great ideas was Parker. Chris, however, was the steady hand and wise counsel that transformed those irrational aspirations into tangible, measurable gold. He broke records year after year with his painstaking work in the gold chamber. Parker would have no illustrious gold totals if Chris hadn't made sure that every ounce could be recovered. Cleaning gold wasn't all he was doing. He was turning a dangerous business into a well-tuned money-making machine and optimizing earnings. Let's face it, though, his worth was far more than the numbers on a scale. The glue that kept the whole thing together was Chris. What do you know? I could do it with 2 plants, but we're dispersed. Red is that way and Bob is this way. I hate to grumble and whine, but this is the way things are. 3 is too much for me. Mining for gold is like cooking under pressure. You have a boss that expects excellence, hard hours, harsh weather, and frequent equipment failures. Arguments start, tempers flare, and morale can drop as quickly as a rock in a pond. Chris was the oasis of calm in a tumultuous setting. He was able to diffuse tension and prevent the squad from turning against one another, because to his laid-back demeanor and keen sense of humor. When things became too severe, Parker and everyone else could turn to him. Beyond being a foreman, he was more. He was both a friend and a mentor. He became into a crucial decision-maker over time. From handling crew issues to determining the best approach to handle a certain kind of pay dirt, Parker trusted his judgment. He was more than a worker. He served as the cornerstone of the whole empire. Chris had to figure out how to make it work, even though it was breaking him, when Parker set the absurd aim of operating 3 wash plants. I'll head over and check in to see how we're doing. Turn it on. Much better looking. It's not like losing a good rock truck driver when he leaves. It's similar to removing a building's cornerstone. The entire building is now in danger of collapsing. From an outsider with little expertise, he became one of the most admired and vital members of the industry. He is the operations mainstay. So why was he pushed so hard if he was so valuable? The child who was unable to stop. It is impossible to discuss Chris Doumitt's pressure without also discussing its origin. The real Parker Schnabel. Parker is more than just a prospector. He is a sensation. He was basically reared in a gold mine after being born in the small Alaskan village of Hands in the mid-1990s. The large nugget mine was operated by his grandfather, the renowned John Schnabel. Parker was also learning how to use excavators and bulldozers, while other children played computer games. Are you discovering anything? Grandpa, what do you think? Oh my. Oh, that's really lovely. Here's another. Isn't that fantastic? I'll have trouble sleeping. He was an old pro with big machinery before he was old enough to drive a car. For a moment, he thought about studying geology in college. But let's face it, his desire was too great to be contained in a classroom. He invested his life savings in his own mining business, rather than taking out college loans. He took over the family mine at the age of 16. Imagine being a teenager and giving instructions to adult guys twice your age. He was more than a bossy youngster, though. He supported it with his work ethic and knowledge. This juvenile mining genius was introduced to the world during the gold rush. Being on TV, however, was insufficient. Everyone was shocked when he quit his family's business, traveled to the Yukon, leased his own land, and began anew. Although it was a huge risk, it paid out handsomely. He extracted more than 1,000 ounces of gold from the ground during his first season as a solo prospect. His trajectory was a straight line heading upward from that point on. Every season, his gold totals increased at an exponential rate, surpassing even his competitors, such as Todd Hoffman. He was doing more than digging. He was coming up with new ideas, continuously aiming for larger machines, greater yields, and increased efficiency. This looks good, I must say. Indeed, it is. Everything is going well. We're making progress. In any case, I sincerely hoped that you would be somewhere where I could take this dozer from you, together with the other 11, and transport them up Australia Creek. Without the large dozer, I don't think we could get through the soil. Yes, neither do I. We have, for example, paid royalties for the pits. We must finish the pits. Because of his unwavering determination, he became a multi-millionaire before the age of 30. However, there is a negative side to that same urge. Parker has an unquenchable will to succeed. It's hardly a reason to celebrate breaking a record. Simply said, it's a new standard that needs to be broken the next year. As a result, there is constant pressure. Nothing is good enough. His personal life has suffered as a result of this fixation. He acknowledged that he couldn't manage his personal life and career, which led to the breakup of his relationship with Ashley Ulley, an Australian veterinary nurse who even made an appearance on the show. Parker's main priority is always mining. The 10,000-ounce target resulted from this unwavering dedication. It didn't seem like a crazy crew-breaking target to him. It made sense to do so next. He occasionally loses sight of the individuals he is trying to get to the peak, because he is so focused on it. Individuals like Chris, who have dedicated themselves to him over the years. However, the data is unmistakable and shows an alarming trend. Seeing past the obvious, was Chris Doumitt's departure from the most prosperous gold mining business on TV due to fatigue? The short answer is no. The true cause is more nuanced and, to be honest, more human. It was more than one thing. The difficulty of managing 3 factories and the 10,000-ounce target weren't the only factors. The combined crushing weight of everything was the cause, eventually reaching its flashpoint after a slow burn. All the gold is lined up in there. Gold can be found here. These riffles may be a lot of work, but they might be effective. This year, Parker tossed down 2,000 ounces. Thought 1,000 was challenging. We will always require excellent cleanups. Now let's make the connection. Chris was the crew's rock and a quiet professional for years. Parker was transformed from a bright youngster to a giant of gold mining thanks to him. Consider the figures. More than 2,500 ounces in Season 5. Over 4,300 in Season 7. Over 6,200 in Season 8. Without a master in the gold room, those figures would not be possible. You threw us a goal that weighed 5,000 ounces. You got that spot on. A 7,000-ounce goal was thrown by you. We've reached a season total of 7,381.1. Chris played a key role in bringing in tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. But when Parker made the decision to pursue his most ambitious objective to yet, Chris found himself in a precarious situation and had to push himself to the limit. The problem is that you have to ask yourself whether Chris began to feel like a piece of machinery after all those years. Yes, it was a valuable object, but it could be banged into the ground until it broke. Tatiana's introduction was a solution, but it was a solution to an issue that Parker had caused. That must have been a difficult pill for a man like Chris, who values respect and loyalty. It conveys the idea that the objective, not the individuals, is what counts. This wasn't a hastily made choice during a difficult season. This was the culmination of years of mental and physical fatigue. It's about a man who asks himself, is it worth it, as he considers his future? Tyson's tailings are really coarse, but he has perhaps 7 or 8 tons of rock on top of them that pipe it at the sleeve to prevent crushing. Is another season of relentless stress when he must sacrifice his health and peace of mind to chase another unreachable number for someone else's legacy. Chris Doumitt really departed because he made the decision for himself. He made the decision to leave the lunacy before it took over his entire being. He had nothing further to demonstrate. He contributed to the empire's growth. He witnessed it soar to heights no one could have imagined. And he concluded that he was finished. It has nothing to do with giving up. It has to do with knowing when to leave. Most of us can understand the decision. Choose to live a peaceful life rather than a busy one, even if it means leaving behind a mound of wealth. Was Parker's desire a hindrance to Chris Doumitt, or did he just take advantage of the situation? Please share your opinions in the comments section below, and remember to like and subscribe.